Here's a guide to answering the problems on the Do Now. Again, if you checked your answers already and you got them all correct, there's no need to watch this video. You can feel free to skip around. You don't need to watch this whole video, just the ones you got wrong. So for number 1, what we're looking at is combining like terms, and I'm going to keep my A's separate from my 1's. So I know I've got this 1. That's a constant term. I'm going to circle it to keep it separate from my A's. There are no other constant terms, so I'm only circling the 1. And then to that 1, I'm adding 10A and then subtracting 5A. So the stuff in the circle has to stay separate from the stuff in the rectangles. So in the circle, I've got 1. In the rectangles, I've got plus 10A minus 5A. So when I combine like terms here, as far as my circled stuff goes, I just have a 1. And then if I take a positive 10A and take away 5 of those A's, I'm left with 5A. So I get 1 plus 5A. For number 2, I'm starting with a positive x, and I'll put a rectangle around all of my variable terms. Minus 9, that's a constant, but minus 3x, that's another variable. And then separate from that, I'll circle all of my constants. So I've got this minus 9. For my variables, that gives me x minus 3x. And then for my constants, I have minus 9. So when I combine like terms here, if I have 1x and I take away 3x's, I'm left with negative 2x's. And separate from that, I've got minus 9. Let's take a look at number 3. I'm going to circle all of my constants and put rectangles around all of my variable terms. 1 has no variable, so it's a constant. Minus 4n, that's got that variable n, so I'll put a rectangle around it. Plus 2n also has a variable, so it gets a rectangle. And last but not least, I've got this minus 1 at the end. So my answers, I'm going to have some things in rectangles and some things in circles or ovals. For my rectangle, I've got a minus 4n and then plus 2n. In my circles or ovals, I've got a positive 1 here. Since it's part of an expression and it's positive, I'll write plus 1, even though there's not a plus sign in front of the original. And then minus 1 from the end. When I write my final answer, I've got negative 4n's plus 2n's. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2, so negative 2n. And then plus 1 minus 1, since those guys are opposites, they cancel each other out. So I could say negative 2n plus 0, but I'm just going to leave my answer as negative 2n. For the remaining 3 problems, I need to distribute before I can combine like terms. Let's take a look at number 4. Negative 7 is not connected to those parentheses. So I'm going to kind of leave it by itself for now, because I need to get rid of these parentheses by following my rules before I can combine that negative 7 with them. So I can do this 2 ways. I can use the arc method. So I can say negative 7 plus 3 times x, which is 3x. And then I'm taking a positive 3 times a positive 6. So that's a positive times a positive gives me a positive. 3 times 6 is 18, so plus 18. That's one way I could distribute. I'll get the same answer the other way, but sometimes it's easier to stay organized if we use this rectangle method. So I'm taking 3 times x plus 6, and I know 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times a positive 6 is a positive 18. So either way, that stuff in parentheses changes from 3 times x plus 6 into 3x plus 18. And then once it looks like this line below, I can follow the same procedure I did over on the left. So what I'll do is I'll put a circle around all of my constant terms. I've got negative 7, and then a rectangle around my variables. So plus 3x plus 18 gets a circle. So in my rectangle, I've got negative or positive 3x. And then in my circles or ovals, I've got negative 7 plus 18. There's nothing to combine that 3x with, so I'm going to start with 3x. And then for my constants, I've got negative 7 plus 18. It's the same thing as 18 minus 7, which is 11. So I get 3x plus 11. I'll use that same strategy for number 5. I need to distribute the 5 times 4m minus 3 before I can combine with the 6m. So let's do that. I'll use this arc method. 5 times 4m gives me 20m minus 5 times 3 is 15. And then at the end I've got plus 6m. When I combine like terms, I know I've got my m's and I've got to keep them separate from my constants. So I've got a 20m minus 15 is a constant, and then plus 6m is another m term. So I've got 2 variable terms and 1 constant term. I prefer to look at my variables first. For my variables, I've got 20m and then also plus 6m. And for my constants, I just have minus 15. When I combine these, if I have 20 plus 6, I get 26. So 20m plus 6m is 26m. And then at the end, I have minus 15. Last but not least, number 6. I'll take 6 times 2k minus 8. So I have to distribute that 6 there. 6 times 2k is 12k. I was subtracting, so I will still subtract. And 6 times 8 is 48. After that, it says plus 7, so I need to add 7 at the end. Now I'll combine like terms. 12k, that's my only variable term. And then separate from that, I've got minus 48 and plus 7. There's nothing to combine that 12k with. It goes alone in its little rectangle. But for my variables, I've got negative 48 plus 7. So again, 12k is alone. But if I have negative 48 and I add 7, I know my answer is going to be negative because the negative 48 has a bigger absolute value. So I'll put my minus sign there. And once I know that, I can think of this as subtracting. 48 minus 7 is 41. So I get 12k minus 41.